Welcome to the Brain Software Podcast, coming at you from Toronto, Canada. I'm Chris Thompson, and today, in episode number 251, NLP and hypnosis trainer Mike Mandel and I are going to discuss whether or not hypnosis is scientific. And I think you'll probably be surprised, so stay tuned.
Disclaimer. As you learn the deep truths and rich understandings in this podcast, I want you to know that there must be someone on earth who likes saying Lucci more than I do, but I doubt it. Lucci.
Yeah, hurry now. Thanks once again. So, we're about to have a great discussion on the science behind hypnosis and that, which is basically everything about hypnosis that these two mullet-haired morons, Edderd and Dooter, know nothing whatsoever about. But seriously, folks, and that, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to enjoy up in Meaford before those dicks came along?
We are not dicks or witches. So let's welcome to the center of the Hypnotic Conservatory, that guitar, piano, banjo, and ukulele playing hypnotist. A man who lives in a glanative state 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because he is the Keith Richards of hypnosis.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I received that.
Mike Mandel.
Yes, and in fact, I'm putting it out there today. If Keith Richards is listening, and of course he is, we want you on our podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'm going to make you, Keith, I'll make you the Mike Mandel of music.
I think that would be quite appealing. So yes, Keith, please do
we love
reach
you,
out,
man.
reach out to our PR team.
Yeah.
I'm sure our people connect with your people, and we can make something happen here.
All right.
Okay, let's do quick
get some
announcements. Yeah, so the May Architecture of Hypnosis class is full, and we shut her down. We shut down that registration page. Sign the contract, as I said, with the hotel venue in Toronto. So our May class is running November 11th to November 15th. It is now open for registration on our website. You can find it on the events page, or just go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com. In addition to that, if you can't make your way to Toronto and you still want to study an awesome set of foundational hypnosis principles, we've been running this program called Foundations Live for at least 2.5 years now.
Yeah, I think so.
It's phenomenal. Full credit to our head of coaching, Timothy September, because he helped us create it. And it is an 8-week program where we give you the training in advance. You watch the videos that you're going to be doing for week 1 ahead of time. You show up. We all break up into practice rooms. We practice activities together. We collect feedback. We analyze and give you improvement suggestions. But basically what happens is at the end of 8 weeks, even if you were a total beginner, you go, wow, I have a hypnotic language generator.
I got skill sets now. Yeah.
I can hypnotize people anywhere, anytime. I can make everyday change happen. That's what I was about to say. And you suddenly realize that you have this skill called I'm a hypnotist.
Right.
I can hypnotize people. I'm confident. That's the thing most people are lacking in other schools where they're learning to read scripts, or they're learning to follow some sort of formula, and they don't really understand why. And so they lack confidence. And then they come to us and go, oh, now I get it. Anyway, come to Foundations Live.
I'm confident just listening to that. So,
it starts in July. The cohort is open. I believe July 3rd is our first date. It's a Wednesday. We're running it at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, 4 till 6 p.m. Eastern time. Check it out on our website. You'll find it if you just go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com. There is a link to the events section, and then you can check it out from there. So enough with that. Those are the 2 events we're running.
Well, yes. Now, Chris, I want you to explain. You just got back from Austin, Texas.
Yes,
yesterday.
I did.
I want to hear about your that encounter you had with the guy in the street, the double bind. I find this fascinating, and any hypnotist would like this.
Okay, so and then we'll talk about the think tank words, and then we'll dive into the science of hypnosis and what's scientific and what. Actually, this is a good prelude to it, because while there's certainly psychological science to what happened here, there's artistry and performance as well. And that's the non-science part, just to tease a little bit. All right, so while I adjust my microphone here, I went to Austin, Texas for a marketing mastermind put on by Digital Marketer and hanging out with Ryan Dice and their crew, and it was fabulous. Well, I got there early, obviously, so I don't have to just try to show up last minute and cram my way into a room. And
right.
Got there on Monday morning. The
4 days early.
event didn't start until Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I was hanging around with my friend Gabriel. We decided, let's go for a walk. It was nice weather. Coming from Toronto. So we walked over to a little shopping mall where we got some food. And on our way out of the restaurant after we'd eaten, there was a table set up and a guy was there and he was raising money for some kids helpline thing.
Okay.
And he had already launched into his pitch with Gabriel. I had stayed behind to use the restroom. And on my way out, I catch up and I'm listening to him talk about this kids helpline and these kids basically leave these abusive situations. And here's
That's
where he
good.
starts mentioning, you get some visualization and some emotion into it. He's talking about, well, a lot of these times when these kids are pulled out of these bad situations, they have nothing. They literally throw all their stuff in a garbage bag. And then he points to the table where there's a nice backpack on it. He says, so what we're doing is raising some money. You can buy a backpack for this kid and all the necessary supplies for him to kind of start over.
Right.
And it's $20.
Who
Would you
wouldn't
like
wanna
to
do that?
would you like to buy a kid a backpack? And I said, yeah, I'm in. Like, of course. It looked legit, and I had
Now, was
I
the
had
backpack any specific design? Did it have
No.
slogans on it or anything?
nothing that I
Okay.
could recognize.
All right.
But it was, it wasn't just will you give us money
No, it's-
for this thing. It was will you buy a kid a backpack? It's not donation into the ether.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll do. It's am I going to buy a kid a backpack? It was whether or not that's true. I don't know. I'm sure the money goes into some account and then they use the money for
Cayman Islands,
hopefully what they say they're going to do.
Okay.
But the framing was beautiful. Will you buy a kid who's in an abusive situation
Who's going to say
a
no
backpack
to that? I mean,
with the stuff?
There's the pathos right away.
Yeah.
So you're appealing to emotions in a very positive way here.
Yes.
So continue.
So this whole garbage bag backpack thing, really clever. All right. So I say, yes, I would love to.
Yes.
Then this is where the brilliance of the double bind comes in. Keep in mind, at this point, I've already said yes to the backpack.
You have committed.
This
to the
is
backpack.
important.
Yeah.
He says, okay, there's also this kids helpline. Now, I don't know if you've heard of it before, but, and then he relates it to, how people who are feeling really depressed or upset, there are suicide hotlines. It's kind of like that, but it's for abused kids. It's abusive, children's support hotline. And this is a really important thing, et cetera, et cetera. He gives a little pitch about it and he says, if you would like to donate to support that, that's $30. But if you had to pick one, I'd go with the hotline because that will help kids more.
And this is recapping here. You've already committed.
I've already
to the
said
$20
yes to the $20 backpack.
So you've got
now he baits me into there's the $30 hotline. And if you had to pick one,
Yeah.
I'd go with this hotline.
Yeah.
So I
You're not
laugh.
going to back off on the backpack because you've already committed.
Now, keep in mind, I'm there for a marketing event. I look at him and I go, nice upsell. Gabriel goes, yeah, that was really clever. I said, I'm in for the $50. He goes, now this is where it gets really smart. First of all, I should back up a moment. When I said yes to the $20 backpack, and Gabriel also said, yeah, I'll do that too. He gets really excited. I'll look right at the camera for this. He's like, yes, that is awesome. Like he's getting excited, right? He's probably about 26, 27-year-old guy. He's excited.
And this is just
Now,
the backpack point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So think about it. I've said yes. He knows he's going to be priming me for this other $30, and he's showing all this enthusiasm. He's so excited that we said yes.
And enthusiasm is contagious.
So do you think there's a chance that I might go, in my own head, I've already committed the $20. He's telling me this $30 thing is more important, but if I had to pick one, it would do this one and not that one. I can't say no to the $20 that I already committed to.
Of course.
So I compliment him on his
Could be. It looked
upsell.
like Jack the Dick. Yeah.
Compliment him on an upsell and pay him the $50. And Gabe did the same thing.
And
so
he said, now, for just $1,000,
there
you
was-
can
yeah,
include a Florida vacation.
yeah, and I said to him, I'm not doing any more upsells beyond this, just so you know, but I really respect the process, and I told him it was well rehearsed.
That's clever. And provided it is a legit, like, did he have the,
I
anything
Googled
you
it on
print
my
out?
phone
Okay, so
because
you
I
found it.
I was paying.
Yeah.
The mobile technology these days, right? Like he doesn't have a credit card machine.
Right.
He uses his phone. He pulls up the order form. I go, oh, by the way, what app are you using for the payment? He tells me exactly the platform, so I know
so
he's not
you're
lying.
well familiar with
I
it.
Google search the organization, find out, yeah, okay, they're legit. So I'm happy with that. But it was brilliant just because of the baiting. First of all, the emotional tie-in on the backpack versus the garbage bag, right?
Right. Then the emotional response.
Then,
when you've
yeah,
said yes.
the emotional response, like, oh, I don't want to, I couldn't say no to this guy because he's so happy, right? So he gives me the upsell, and it's either or double bind. I'm like, well,
Why not
obviously,
just do both?
Yeah, I'll just do both. I'll
Yeah.
give you the $50. I get a tax. I got the
I
tax write-off
Of
receipt.
course you did. No, I can see even jumping in on, yes, I'll do the $50. The pressure to do that, in my mind, if it were me in that situation, would largely be because I'd be stuck. I'm the donkey between the two piles of
Yeah,
hay now. So
yeah.
I don't want to have to
Do you
keep
say
wrestling
no?
which one. Just I'll do both.
Do you
of
say
them.
no to the more important one because you said yes to the backpack?
But with me, it's
yeah.
just to relieve the trying to figure out which one.
This is
let me out of that loop.
and
Yeah.
and we'll go to our think tank words, and then we'll talk about hypnosis and the science and all that stuff.
maybe not.
But you see now how it's like, wow, there's clearly a psychological principle that you could scientifically prove that if you do things in this order,
Right.
just by measuring it, you'll get better results. And there's the non-scientific how he sells it, how he presents it part of it. And he did an exceptional job. So
Right, and
I
that's
told
the
him about our
artistry, like you
podcast.
said,
So
the
if you're listening, I can't remember your name, young man, but well freaking done.
Well done.
You've got a future in raising money for kids.
Excellent.
Should we do
And
the
present?
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the. Let's go right on to that was well taught, Chris. Well discussed. Let's go to the think tank words.
Okay.
Done in Savo Bukacek's think tank in my office. The first one is butcher. Uh-oh.
Okay. Well, butcher.
Let's
cut-
get the three first.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Second
do
is
all three, and then we'll time them together.
craniology, Butcher, craniology, and portrait.
Okay. You go first. You always ask me, so I'll
Well,
push it back on you.
Honestly,
you go.
When I hear butcher, I always hear that wonderfully ambiguous phrase that came out of I heard it first on the TV show The Prisoner that was in 1967. I watched it when I was 14, and he gave a great line. He said, "The butcher with the sharpest knife has the warmest heart." Now, the ambiguity there is incredible. It's, he's just so kind. He's going, no.
No, he can
get the
cut
heart
out the
so
heart.
fast. That's what I think of. What do you think with butcher?
Well, I think about, first of all, butcher, I think about meat. I think about high quality protein. I think about, put the good stuff in your body,
Yeah.
not the bad stuff. I also think about portion size and breaking things into chunks.
Right.
So there's that. What about craniology?
Well, craniology, I mean, I jumped from that to that phrenology that people used to do around the time when hypnosis was just taking off, 1700s, 1800s, analyzing the bumps on people's heads and thinking it would give insights into their personality and so on.
Oh, it just gives insights to how they banged their head when they were
Pretty much,
younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
But craniology, so we're looking at the skull, we're looking at the head, the study of that, the cranium itself, which is a nice high impact case.
Yeah. All I get out of it is really that there are so many areas to study, and that's an example of a very niched down area of study, right?
It certainly
so
is.
there's lots of areas of study in life that you can enjoy.
Now, remember, we were talking about turning everything to Dracula. So you can go back to butcher right away. We're there. Butcher to blood to Dracula.
Yeah,
Okay?
craniology to brain to blood.
No, I go craniology to cranberry, to red juice, to blood to
blood to
Dracula.
Dracula.
Yeah. So what about portrait? Oh, so easy.
Portrait.
A portrait of Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. Everything.
Okay, this is going to be
how
a new
quickly
function.
can you go
we
to
do
Dracula?
the think tank words and then the completely pointless thing of getting to Dracula from
Yeah.
each one. We're starting that today and a half.
Okay. So portrait. You have to focus on something if you're going to take a
Right,
portrait.
you want the background
Yeah.
out of focus.
Yes.
So we're saying
So zoning on
put
that.
in the foreground that which is most important.
That relates to hypnosis and all kinds of things.
The other things, not so much.
Okay.
All right. So
Cool.
let's-
There you go.
let's
So
get
we'll
on with
see.
this
We'll see
pecker.
how these words slot themselves into our conversation as we
Transylvania,
go
yeah.
forward. So, all right, let me throw this at you then, Mike. Hypnosis.
Metaphor.
Oftentimes people go, well, hypnosis, that's all fake. Other people go, hypnosis, it's actually all science. And I think the truth, fake part, obviously BS, but whether it's scientific or not scientific, I think the truth lies somewhere in between, and I'm going to propose to you that it's sort of like how in pharmaceutical land, you have a headache, you can take ibuprofen, and for whatever reason, if you package up that ibuprofen in a red capsule instead of a yellow capsule, it works better.
Yeah,
or
although they're
if,
using blue, aren't they?
or whatever, yeah. And if they label, because of
Right.
headaches, maybe blue, cool.
Yeah, cool. You don't want to
There's
ramp it up.
there is a placebo effect built into any natural drug that would work on its own.
Absolutely.
Just like I think there is the ability to set up belief and expectation, which gives you an amplification of the results beyond the science that's already there.
So what are we seeing? Like placebo effect? What are we looking at? Like 15% effective or something?
I don't know. It probably depends on the situation.
But what you brought up is very interesting here because it is hypnotic. There's huge overlap in the Venn diagram between influence and hypnosis. And when we look at this, it's interesting to me that a lot of people don't even seem to realize, they say, that's just a placebo effect. They don't seem to realize, as we've said before, that even genuine pharmaceuticals that have a psychotropic or other
benefit
effect,
from
they
the
benefit from the placebo
right.
effect too.
I'll give you right to the camera, or the microphone for those of you just
or
listening.
the monitor.
Yeah, exactly. Hi. Oh, that guy.
Yeah. Hi.
Put it this way. Let's imagine that we set up a scientific experiment where we're going to deploy, now for the purposes of science, I guess you would have to use like a hypnosis recording or a video, the same intervention on every single person, which really sucks because you can't adapt
There's
it.
no individual.
It's sort of like you want to adapt a dish to someone's appetite, right? And taste buds. You want to adapt a conversation to what they consider interesting or humorous. And
not press play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But for whatever purpose, let's just say we have one static intervention. So people who have a phobia, and we're going to throw the fast phobia cure at it. And you break them into two groups. One group, they are told, this is an amazing intervention. This will help you. Okay. The other group, they're told, this might help you. Mm-hmm. This is somewhat useful a certain percentage of the time. You just set up different expectations going in.
Whatever expectation is so much.
If you set up two different expectations, one more positive, one more neutral or negative, and you do the same darn thing, which actually has scientific reasons that it works, we'll get different outcomes, won't we?
Absolutely, you will.
There you go.
And this ties back to so many things we do, whether it's working with a client with mindscaping or whatever. The pre-frame is crucial, and a neglected pre-frame or an insufficient pre-frame leads to poor results.
Bingo. And so,
well, I think
with that, there we go. There's the entire episode. No, what else? Let's dive into some of the other notes that we made here, and I'll let you drive it.
The whole history of hypnosis, and we're not going to go into it, but just the overview, the thumbnail sketch, beginning with not just the stuff like chanting and drumming and everything in the distant past, but when it began to be codified to some degree. We have Mesmer in the 1700s, and it is my view that a lot of hypnotists, we've gone from Mesmer to scientific hypnosis, probably began with Braid, arguably so.
This is an interesting point in the history, not that we're going to get deep into it, though, but because the Mesmer piece actually had no scientific value other than to demonstrate the importance of focused attention. But there was this setup, this expectation, just like I said, this will work. That's the equivalent of mesmeric passes for 2 hours.
Yeah, you brought in the theatrics. You brought in the mysticism. I mean, anybody who's wearing a turban, a frickin' cape, carrying a magic wand, and he's
burning
got a
incense,
glass harmonica playing in the background, which he did. Do you know glass harmonica?
No, I don't know what it is.
It's water glasses.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned this.
So he had, so all this to create the right atmosphere with his baquette. So this is all theater. It's not science. Then we get to Braid, and I'm sure there's always a bit of theater, whether we want it or not.
But he's a doctor.
But he was a doctor. Yeah. So now we're moving into science. And it is my contention that the average hypnotist starts at some point on this spectrum between art and science and will typically replicate the flow of hypnosis in their own life. And some hypnotists get stopped on this continuum. So they start with just direct hypnosis, Walter B. Gibson, whatever, and stop there. They don't progress. And it is my belief that every hypnotist needs to continually replicate the whole spectrum and keep becoming more scientific and taking advantage of all the changes.
I think that makes sense. And
thanks again.
For example, if the method, let's say we're just taking somebody through something like an NLP fast phobia cure, like I said, and it's a step-by-step approach. We do this, then we do this, then we do this, right? And we repeat the process or whatever. Well, do you think that how we deliver it, even the words and how we present those words, how we dynamically present what we're saying, how we say things matters, right?
Oh, sure.
So obviously that's going to change things. So how we set things up, how we present things, how theatrical we are, as opposed to you could otherwise just say, well, if hypnosis is only science, here's the script, go read it to yourself,
Yeah. Which loses a lot because expectation leads to anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
And the two together, remember Krasner said belief plus expectation equals hypnosis.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is what we've learned from reframing from our friend Scott Adams is you don't even have to actually believe it. If you adopt the belief as though you believe it.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's continue here. So
that's crazy.
if we look at this, here we go. I said it continues to evolve. Hypnosis continues to evolve, and we aim for continuous learning, but simplification of the model. The danger is learning a ton of new techniques and expanding your model of hypnosis to the point it becomes unwieldy and undoable. So we should always be trimming to the minimal effective dose and to what gets the job done. Do you agree with that?
I do. And
I thought
it
you
makes,
did.
you know what it makes me think of? As you know, Timothy bought me the Walter Isaacson Elon Musk biography, and I started
right.
reading it on Sunday before my trip to Austin. And then the trip was wonderful because I sat on the plane and I read the whole way. I'm halfway through this book. I never read this fast. But I got to the part where Elon Musk was marching up and down the production line when they were under the gun and they needed to get production up to 5,000 cars a week or they were going to run out of money and die.
Wow.
So talk about intense pressure, right? And so he's like under the assembly line looking at something going, why are we using 4 bolts for this? Can we get away with 2? Guy, I don't know. Well, get the guy over here who made this decision. Let's figure it out right now. And just like eliminating parts and eliminating steps and cutting out the fluff, cutting out the unnecessary. And that's what it made me think of.
Remove the unnecessary, because it is one of my beliefs, and this is original, that the mark of the amateur is confusing complexity, mistaking complexity for elegance and cleverness.
Yeah.
It's not. Elegance is trimming things down. It's not how complex can we do this.
Very good
You'll
point.
know a case, block, catch, lift, but then you drop to one knee and you twist to the side. It's someone we know.
Jiu-jitsu stuff.
God bless him.
Let's
Okay.
add 16 extra steps
So-
just for the flourishes.
Now we're talking about the science here. So what about state versus process? Is hypnosis something we are in, or is it something we are doing? And we always say in our live class, the answer is yes.
Yeah, this is probably something that came up in episode 1 or 2. By the way, do you know we've been doing this podcast for something like 12 years
That's
now?
why I feel so freaking tired and old all the time.
12 years. We've been doing this for 12 years. I think we've been podcasting for way longer than most podcasts on the planet, which is pretty amazing. I mean, not as long as some of the others, but
No.
Anyway, 12 years. And we were talking about this back then. Is hypnosis a state or is it a process? And you said the answer is yes, because it's both. And we describe it often as it is a state that is maintained by a process.
As long
And
as
that
you keep doing
process,
hypnosis, you keep getting hypnosis.
yeah, and the process typically involves focused attention, right? And the elicitation of emotion and the maintenance of those emotions and the direction and redirection of those emotions.
Which is
based
entirely
on,
scientific. Yes.
Yeah, which is based upon focus.
Yeah, and people typically, one of the things they think about hypnosis is a number of people seem to think it's imagination. And it's only the fact that you believe in it, you imagine it's going to work, that makes it work. I was supposed to be on a television show in London, England, with another hypnotist, and he called me up and tried to coach me on everything I was going to say. And he said, we're going to go on there and we're going to say that hypnosis doesn't work. It's the belief in hypnosis that works. And I said, that's not my model at all. And he hemmed and hawed, and the whole show was canceled anyway.
Oh, man.
There's no way I was going to let this guy drop me in some little thing.
Speaking into the microphone. Speaking into the microphone. Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it. No, but we know now it's not just imagination, because neuroimaging shows there's greater activity in the prefrontal cortex. So when you go into hypnosis, your brain lights up in a different way.
Yeah.
And this is the default mode network. This is a new term to me.
Default mode network.
Really interesting. This is one of the things, I'm just going to put my knee up because sore knee. This is one of the things that shows how hypnosis is scientific. The default mode network, the best way to explain it is if you're on your iPhone like this, you got an app open and you're playing chess or something, or sending a message to someone else, your attention is locked on that screen and it's fulfilling a specific purpose. The moment you stop and put your iPhone down, that's like the default mode network. Your brain goes into sort of an idle mode. The iPhone does, and your brain does the same thing. And it starts communicating with itself in all different areas. So it's the attention of hypnosis does one thing, but it also has an effect on the prefrontal cortex and the default mode network.
Okay, so we can use hypnosis to change what that default mode network does?
No, it switches on when we're doing hypnosis. It's considered to be a quote-unquote unique state of consciousness.
Okay, so which is different than, let's say, natural trance, i.e., here I am and I'm mindlessly scrolling through TikTok or something like that. That would be not heterohypnosis, somebody else doing hypnosis on me. For anyone wondering, heterohypnosis meaning someone else is doing the hypnosis to you.
Right.
And self-hypnosis, you're in trance on your own. Would you differentiate anything there?
Well, you got to remember the only point of this example was how your computer or your iPhone goes on standby.
Right. Okay.
So it's still running.
Gotcha.
But it's doing its own little things.
Oh, okay.
And that's
I
what
got
happens
you.
with hypnosis. Now, this has been proven with functional MRIs and with EEGs. I checked all this before I wrote this, and it shows how hypnosis affects the brain regions involved in attention, perception, and pain. And all of these are changed and transmogrified simply by creating hypnotic
That's
states.
really cool.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, this of course, now leads to the amazing Kreskin strawman dickishness, which we're going to say. God bless him. I like the amazing Kreskin. But he has this thing he does. He says he creates a straw man. Now, remember, the straw man is to create a false view of the other person's point of view and then attack the straw man instead of dealing with what they're actually saying and then declaring victory by knocking the straw man down.
Right.
So what he does is
So
he says,
your argument that hypnosis has absolutely no scientific merit, I mean, I can clearly disprove that right now.
Right. So what he says is, there is no hypnotic state. He proves it with a polygraph and he proves it with an EEG, but he keeps using the word special. He said hypnotists think there is a special state that is hypnosis, and there isn't because their brains show they're just daydreaming. Kreskin, it's a straw man. None of us are saying it's a special state.
Yes.
We're saying it's a naturally occurring state that can be triggered through procedures. So drop your straw man and get some smaller glasses.
It's not a special state, but you're special.
A little bit special, Kreskin.
There you go. Okay, cool.
Paul Pacific will kill me now because he loves Kreskin. I love Kreskin. Who doesn't love the old humbug? So why are some people more susceptible to hypnosis if it's scientific?
Well, let's talk about it. What do you want to say?
Well, intelligence is connected with hypnotic susceptibility, but it's the opposite of what the average person thinks. It doesn't mean you're stupid, you're a dullard, you have no ability to concentrate if you're hypnotizable. It's actually, everybody's hypnotizable to some degree. And although we must say that those who are the best subjects tend to be higher than average intelligence.
Yeah. Now, also, I think there's a misconception about what hypnosis actually feels like. So I'll give you an example. I was in Austin having a really nice dinner at this amazing Mexican restaurant. It's a separate story. We got there by accident. Went to the wrong restaurant.
How can you get to a restaurant by accident?
Somebody punched in. This guy that I went with, Ryan, it was the restaurant. What restaurant did you go to? We said, L something. Everyone laughs going, that narrows it down to 100,000 places.
Yeah.
He just punched into the Uber, started typing the name, and he was told it was supposed to be something south. And he saw south, and he just clicked it. We got into the Uber. We get out. We go in. We go, this looks like a really nice restaurant. They don't have our reservation. I go, well, can you accommodate a group before? They go, yeah. We sit down, then we realize we're at the totally wrong place.
Now, did you cancel the other reservation?
No, because another person had shown up there. Anyway, we thought it was a party. Long story short, we had an amazing meal. While we're there, there's this guy in our group, and he's a brilliant software guy, really smart, and he's talking to me about hypnosis, and he's saying, I wish I could experience hypnosis. I've just never been able to be hypnotized. And I said, well, how do you know that's true? What's your evidence criteria?
Right.
Now, what he said to me is because whenever anyone's tried, it just doesn't feel like anything. I thought, well, there's half the problem, right? Is you have an expectation that it somehow feels different. Now, I don't know actually the context of what these other hypnotists were doing with him.
Yeah.
But I said it doesn't feel any different to most people.
No, it doesn't. I like Jason Linett does that wonderful thing.
Yeah.
You say, here's what hypnosis feels like. Close your eyes, just relax, sit there. Okay, open your eyes. That's what hypnosis feels like.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, this is interesting because, the whole idea of hypnotizability, if it's scientific, then we've said intelligence has a correlation with it. Anticipation, too. Because if you're expecting to get a good result, and that's setting the stage for all manner of responses.
Yeah, if you can get someone to anticipate, and with an intelligent person, they're going to be much more able, I think, to follow your instructions and to go with it and even use a bit of creative adaptation to whatever you're asking them.
Language police,
adaptation. They're going to creatively adapt if something that you suggest and they're in rapport with you doesn't quite fit perfectly for them.
They will fill in the blank.
They will
figure it out.
They will go with it.
And we've already said belief. Certainly, it's not just belief, but belief when you tie it with expectation or anticipation, it does help. Also, a reason in hypnosis, some people are really good subjects and others aren't, is what is the methodology that was used? Like when people say, oh, he's a poor subject, what does that even mean?
It's like the old, play that 45 RPM record. And it's the exact same script.
There is no difference.
And well, obviously people are going to, it's like saying, well, some people are more susceptible to humor. Well, it depends on the joke, the person delivering the joke, whether or not it was a funny joke.
Yeah. Whether there's any point. Yeah.
Right.
Now that's interesting because as you know, Chris, our students tend to discover by the end of architecture of hypnosis that they don't hit bad subjects anymore. Even the ones who've been trained elsewhere, some are trainers, still run into their, 40% poor subjects or not so good. They leave our training. They don't experience that anymore. The reason why is the bad subjects flee them. They just can detect them and run away and go to other hypnotists. That's my theory anyway.
Yeah.
But, the methodology used. Now, what about the hypnotist, him or herself? That's going to be a huge consideration here.
Huge,
if I'm a banker and I'm going in for stress relief to some hypnotherapist and I'm straight-laced and wearing my, Brooks Brothers suit and everything like this, I don't have one. But if I did, and this guy, it winds up, he looks like Dracula or something. He's got medallions and he's burning freaking incense. It's all new age. That's fine. A lot of people respond very well to that. But it's not a mix. And the person could come out thinking, oh, I'm not a good subject. It didn't work that way. When in reality, it's the whole context and the hypnotist. In other words, so many things will affect the experience that fall under the rubric of science.
I would say 100%. That makes sense.
Now,
we're going to have to wrap up in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah,
which means we're going to hurry through. Rushing.
Let's fly through. Here I am thinking I don't have enough material. It's always the same. I write enough to teach a weekend course. So let's talk about this. Stanford Hypnotic Susceptibility Scales, digitizing humans, ridiculous.
Right.
You'll be surprised. Do you know who created that scale? It was Weizenhofer and Hilgard.
Come on, really?
Yeah, they worked together. I've checked.
No kidding.
I thought it was Weizenhofer, but it was both of them. So all these hypnotic scales, all these attempts to put people in
level
boxes,
1 is you can get eyelid closure, or I don't know, whatever it is. Right. Level 16, you get arm catalepsy.
Yeah.
Level 17, you get leg catalepsy.
Who cares? Yeah. But so let's look at some more of these things. What makes it scientific? Let's just talk about hypnosis and pain.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.
Thing.
That's probably a great way to segue into the ending.
Well, the whole idea of the gate theory of pain, that there's a gate that permits this message to go through. And when you create a hypnotic state, you can actually shut those gates to the pain impulse. Now, that's a wonderful theory. It's quite widely accepted. Also, though, we know that the profound relaxation that can be engendered with hypnosis can cause the brush endings of the pain transmitting nerves to move further apart. Consequently, with the synapses there, you're going to find that the impulse won't go across as well. Automatically, pain feels better. It becomes relief. Think about it. If you're having a dentist drilling, and like the one I used to have, you do a freaking root canal, he's drilling for freaking oil.
I love that line.
I'm just sitting there, and I'm in Saudi Arabia, and this guy's got a giant drill going into my head, and he's telling me to relax because he knows that if I can relax, the pain is lessened automatically. Yeah. Well, I do it all hypnotically now, but there's wonderful, wonderful evidence, scientific evidence for hypnosis helping with pain.
Yeah. Side note, do you think it would help when he's got the drill and he's going, just calm down, Mike, just calm down. Do you think that works?
Try to relax.
That's right.
It doesn't work. Oh, man. I had a horrible dentist experience. Well, it's part of being British. Now, what about what September Man just did? I'm not going to give too much detail.
Oh, right, with the woman who had surgery on wisdom teeth.
Yeah,
I believe
one was
it was
impacted. He just told me yesterday it had to be cut in half.
Yeah,
and removed, and the gum tissue sewn up, sutured.
Yeah.
Now this is pretty heavy stuff, and he had coached the dentist or the oral surgeon in this case. I don't think dentists can do that sort of thing.
It wasn't a dentist, yeah.
Right.
No, he had received feedback from the surgeon after that something strange happened.
Yeah.
Halfway through, the patient stopped bleeding.
I thought you said breathing.
Yeah, no, not breathing.
But what was interesting was September Man, our guy, had actually coached the dentist or oral surgeon what to say as the woman was going.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Had given him the exact words to say.
Oh, brilliant!
So because the unconscious is still, he got a phenomenal result. And this is, we know the science of hypnosis because we talk about dentistry, platelets that aggregate and form a clot. You can cause that with hypnosis. Now, obviously, you're not getting a generalized series of clots forming in your body and going to your brain, giving you a stroke, or your heart and killing you with a heart attack. It is in situ. It is exactly where they are dealing with the extraction. So the brain is good enough, or the unconscious, to create that clot, the aggregation of platelets, right in that spot.
Which is
That's science.
crazy.
Like, we've known
Yeah.
that for 100. Well, I've not known it for 100 years. I'm getting close to it these days, though.
It's wild.
It's wild, isn't it? So hypnosis affects pain perception. You know, you've done that thing. You've gotten rid of headaches super fast.
Yeah, I just did that. The other
did
night
another one.
in
Yeah, yeah.
Austin with my buddy Gabriel. We were just sitting at the bar one night after dinner, and with a few people, and he had this bad pain in the back of his neck and in his forehead. And so I just did a SUD solicitation, i.e., how bad is that on a scale of
Subjective
0 to
units of
10,
distress,
subjective
yeah.
units of distress. I asked him if he was to, he told me, I think he said it was a 6. And I said, well, if you focus on that really intently, can you make it a 7 or more? And he goes, he kind of looked at me like, why would I want to do that? I said, I know it's a weird thing to ask you, but there's a good reason behind it. So if you do, can you? And he did. He goes, yeah, it's maybe like an 8. I said,
Nice.
that's right. And then I just guided him through some dissociation, submodality changes, putting it back in, had him reach out, put it back in his body, check in. And I love this Freddie Jacquin line. And where's that discomfort? Where's that headache? I think I said to him, where's that headache gone now?
That's beautiful.
And
Yeah.
it's a 2. So we just did some what we call squeezing the lemon, 6-step tapping. Vanished. And he's like, holy crap.
Did you leave a silver
Love it.
bullet right off into the
I
sunset?
love it.
That's the thing.
It takes like 4 minutes.
And that
you know?
line from our friend Freddie Jacquin, it's a great one. Another one like that I love is the Tad James one. He said, and where is that discomfort now, or did it just disappear?
disappear.
It doesn't even make sense linguistically, but it works really
Yeah.
well. Now let's look at something else really quickly here. Hypnosis is proven highly effective for anxiety, symptoms of depression, PTSD, where we can go back and rewrite the event in their imagination and get rid of it.
Highly effective. Thank you, Carl Sestari.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I love his choke. Sports and athletic performance. Remember I won't say his name, but the judo expert who I was working with.
Oh, yes. I remember
and
this.
He was going to go to the Olympics. I mean, he will be going to the next Olympics for Canada, and I think he's going to get a frickin' gold. He's an amazing fighter, and he has Ippon Sinagi, which is one-arm shoulder throw. He can do it in like half a second, and wham, you're through the mat. But he had a
You
fight.
still got the guy's arm in your hand. The guy, his body's on the
without
ground.
it. And then you beat him to death with the soggy end of the arm. But yeah, it was clever, isn't it? He had a fight in Morocco.
Yeah.
And he was scheduled to win everything. And his family had gone over to see him. And
Yeah,
he lost.
on the
He
first-
lost the very first bout.
Yeah.
And this caused a significant event in his past that he was seeing everything through that lens.
Yeah.
So when I worked with him, first thing we did, de-traumatize first,
Clear that up. Right.
clear up the past, and then put him in a very empowered state and prepare him for the next one, which of course he won very, very easily.
Yeah.
So yes, hypnosis has science. It works with sleep disorders. It's great for dealing with nightmares. It's good for insomnia and somnambulism as well. And when I say somnambulism, I mean sleepwalking. I'm not talking.
You're not talking about putting somebody into a somnambulistic
Correct.
trance for the purpose of therapeutic intervention or anything like that.
Correct. And in 2014, there was a study in the journal Sleep, which is the journal of the Sleep Research Society. I think it's connected to Oxford University. And they said people who are susceptible to hypnosis, they can produce 80% more slow wave sleep and they'll stay asleep the same amount of time, but hypnosis with 80% of them will reduce the cycling. So
Interesting.
they're probably going into
Quality
delta
of
longer.
sleep is gonna be
quality of
better.
sleep. Yeah. And anything you want to add here? We're flying.
No,
down
I think
here.
we're, you know
I
what?
think we said some cool stuff.
We're pretty much down to the wire. What we will say is
Yeah.
feel free to send us questions. We love getting your questions. We actually haven't really called for questions on the podcast.
And we don't
much.
actually read
We
them
take
anyway.
a lot out of our Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy community where if students are asking questions, we'll pick the best ones and bring them up in the discussions here. But if you, the listeners, have questions as well, you're always welcome to send them in. If you send them to info@Mike Mandel Hypnosis, that's a group email list. It's basically you and I.
Did you say groupie list?
Group email list.
Okay.
So it's just through Google Workspace, right? Because we use Google tools for our email. So if you send it info@MikeMandelHypnosis.com, that goes to both Mike and I. We both get them in our inbox. And we can collect those questions and introduce discussions in our upcoming
Mailbag.
YouTube videos,
Yeah.
next podcast episodes, et cetera, et cetera. We love getting your questions, so feel free to send them. And Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning. I'll just mention it again. We have our upcoming Architecture of Hypnosis in May that sold out. So the November class is now taking registration. You can find that on our website. And perhaps more important for now is the Foundations Live 8-week online on Zoom training. Starts in July. Yeah, it's one Wednesday a week for 8 weeks.
2 hours each time.
And yeah, it's phenomenal. Foundations Live. You'll find that also on our website. When you get to the website, just click the events link and you'll find the information about it. And with that, if you also want to check out the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, if you just go to our website, you'll find a way to sign up for what's called a test drive. It doesn't even require a payment method of any kind. We decided to try that out a while ago, and it's working really well because there's no pressure. It's like, here are the keys. Take it for a spin. See if you like it. And if you don't, no problem. If you do, you can pay later.
Just bring it back.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't have to worry about them crashing your Tesla or something.
Right.
But that's a great way to go. So if you're interested in hypnosis and you're kind of curious, like, gee, I wonder if this would be useful for me, go to our website, sign up for the test drive. There's no payment method required at all to do it. And we think you're going to love it. So that's it.
Will you throw in a free ride in your Cybertruck they get to drive?
Perhaps I haven't considered how it wouldn't be possible for me at all to not offer such a thing, so I won't.
Good point.
All right.
So we're going to close on this. Chris, we have a empowering question, so let's nail this.
All right, here we go.
Son of a gun down.
Which of these aspects of hypnotic effectiveness are most interesting to me? And where will I go to continue learning about the nature and power of hypnotic procedures?
Wow. I like that. I like that quite a lot. Let me give you a Metafive, one better than a metaphor. And this comes from my own life again. You know this story, but because you're in Austin, it made me think of it.
Okay.
When I was on the road with another guy years ago, and he was doing his talking backwards and all this stuff, and we traveled together a lot. And we got to Texas, and we worked Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, some other places too, including a couple of colleges, universities. But we went out one night. They took us to a place, for supper. We had the 20-ounce porterhouse steaks. I mean, I can't even imagine eating that now. I think I had to split it with someone. But afterwards, everybody was up dancing on the dance floor. Well, I wasn't. I was watching. But a lot of people, they were doing the Cotton Eye Joe, which is this dance, right? And everybody's yelling, hell yeah. And Bob being English, to hear him yelling, hell yeah, it was really funny. So we were in town for a couple of days. And he went and got a big bucket and filled it with long neck beers and ice. So I think it was Pearl, which was a nice beer. And he put it between our beds at the Ramada at the hotel. We each had our own bed. Not saying anything wrong with it, but we each had our own. And he put the frickin' garbage can, we must have had a bit to drink. We were much younger then. He put the garbage can on top of the Sony Trinitron TV. And he's on his bed. I'm on mine. We're leaning against the wall. And the rule was you couldn't have another beer until you did this. We'd drink it down, hold it by the neck. And the other guy would say, let's hear a good Texas, hell yeah. And the guy would go, hell yeah, throw it across the room, which is about as far as the wall is here. It had to land in the garbage. And I swear to you, we had quite a number of them. We did not miss once. Everyone landed in the garbage can, which just encouraged us. The chance of it blowing the screen of the TV out was just exceptional. As you know, we had some time on the road with bands and that, where that kind of thing was quite common. Wow. But hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. This has been the Brain Software episode, episode 251. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks again, and good night.